What is up, guys? Megasonic here, and today we're going to cover my first Walking Dead comic book issue review. Now, I will do these monthly when the comic books come out, and just something I will do more monthly, as well as to focus on, I will talk on certain aspects of the comic book and pick out certain things that you guys may have missed. So, let's get on with this. The beginning. So the beginning of this issue is Carl standing by Andrea's grave. Now, the one thing some of you guys kind of glanced over and some people didn't see was in Andrea's grave they show, Andrea's name, and it's Andrea Grimes. Now, fun fact: Rick and Andrea are not married yet or at all in the comic books. They're just together as a couple. So them putting Grimes shows that she was part of their family, as I personally think a better mother and wife to Rick and Carl than ever Lori was. But Lori was annoying. But anyway, I like you enjoy Andrea a little bit more. So Carl goes on to tell a story about Billy and Ben. Now, I'm not gonna get too much into the story because this is like a really old Walking Dead like incident with Carl, and it's like really old to the point the TV show has already covered back in like season 4, so it's been like done in the TV show 3 years ago. And if for those who don't know what I'm talking about, is the Lizzie and Mika. You remember Lizzie and Mika, those two girls that Carol adopted? Well, in the comic book is a little bit. The two girls are actually two boys named Billy and Ben, who are the sons of another couple who was in the show but not in the show. But I ain't gonna get too much into that. But pretty much what happened is one of the kids went crazy, similar to on this TV show, and the kid had to be killed. In the comic book, it was done a little bit differently, where Carl killed the kid, and that's because everyone else was nervous and didn't want to kill a kid. But Carl being around age 8 or 9, around the same age as them, it wasn't a problem to put a bullet in another kid for him. And he kind of did this behind the back door, so no one really knew for like chapters upon chapters. But then Carl said he told Andrea literally like months around, like by the time they were like in Alexandria, and she cried and told him that she loved him, and he said that's when he started calling her mom. And it was a sad scene. You had Lydia there to console Carl, and I love how in the recent like arc or recent chapters in recent volumes we have been spending more time with Carl, that we seen that he's becoming his own character, and we see that a lot in this chapter. Anyway, getting into with Rick. So Rick go meet with Eugene, and Sadiq tells him that Sadiq's a character in the comic book too. Eugene recently in the recent volumes have been like messing with this radio and talking to this woman who's part of another network of communities similar to how Rick has. And they're like, she's talking about him, and pretty much she heard that the community was in like complete dog doodle, and like it is like the hilltops destroyed, the Alexandria is like it's like a mess. So, and the Saviors, they're like a mess. Negan's like back to being leader. So like everything's a mess, and like everyone's trying to like rebuild after that harsh battle. So they talk, and Rick is trying to like say, hey, like at first she doesn't want to talk to Rick because she doesn't trust Rick, and Eugene convinces her. They're chatting, and she's like, hey, dot 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 dot, what's up? And they're talking, and he's like, hey, we understand like you don't want to like see us, we don't want to like I don't want to come see us because you can't trust people in The Walking Dead. Like one minute you'll go visit something, and next you end up getting eaten by cannibals. Remember that? Yeah. So it's not like you have to be wary of everyone you come across, and I like that that's still a thing. But Rick's a little bit more like kind of gambling here. He's like, hey, no worries, we'll send a group to you, which is something that I don't think younger Rick would have ever done, but older Rick is a little bit more open and optimistic a bit. He still deals with shit. He's still Rick, but he's a little optimistic a bit. So the lady, confirms and is like, hey, we'll give you the spot. Give me a day. I'll tell you. And they tell him the spot and everything. They don't tell him. They don't show us, but they pretty much, I think they did tell him. But getting into the next arc, he's talking to Eugene, and Eugene's like, hey, I didn't want to tell you guys at first because she didn't want to tell me. He's like, I understand, da da da. We need to gather a group to go on ahead. So he kind of runs into to Dwight, and Dwight is still, very, very bitter about what the recent events have happened. To the point right now, he's kind of like distanced to Rick, not even distant, to like openly just like shitting on Rick, like telling Rick to go F himself. And Rick's like, all right, we'll talk about that like later on. So Rick go meets with Jesus, and Jesus like, all right, sure, what do you want me to do? And he's like, do your regular job, go out, talk to people, meet other communities, and try to set up some trade route if they want to. And he's like, okay, where is it? He's like, oh, in Ohio. And Jesus is like, what? Like, you're joking, right? He's like, that could take weeks on foot and on car, because the roads are not open. And I like this because it's more world building instead of just, because I'm not the only person who's probably this, but I'm really tired of like looking at Alexandria and the Hilltop. Like, we have these four communities: the Hilltop, the Sanctuary, Alexandria, and Kingdom. We also have like Oceanside and some other communities that are kind of mentioned once or twice, but we don't necessarily like. We want to see more of the world of The Walking Dead. Like, we want to see like out of state countries or whatever. Or what if like it's just a small sector and there's like a big old border built to separate the walkers from like that side? Like, what if that's interesting? And like the world doesn't know about it. So like on some Attack on Titans mess. Anyway, so where was I? So Jesus says, I don't want to do it because, him and Aaron are now a thing, which was hinted. So why not? They're the only two gay characters in the show, so why not? So after that, Carl talks to Maggie, and Maggie talked to Rick earlier and was like, "How can you just let this man, like, because recently Negan has become leader again of the Saviors to help Rick." And Maggie is uncomfortable to the fullest about this because he killed Glenn, and he what the whole show's covering right now happened, and now he's back out again, and he's leader of the Saviors again, and it kind of makes everyone unsettled, and that's why everyone's kind of like iffy about like what was Rick thinking. So then Rick kind of explains that like he doesn't necessarily want to kill Negan, and like killing, like stabbing, like I guess because Negan has they come to understanding, like between the two of them, Rick and Negan has come to a more better understanding of how situations are. I would say Negan is more of a, like, the thing about Negan's character, he's not much like the governor or like every other villain. He's not like very like one-sided evil. He's very neutral. Like, he's neutral chaotic. Like, he's bad when he needs to be if he gets the job done. But he's still Negan. He's still vulgar and goofy and, cracks jokes, but he's also a hell of intelligent and probably one of the best strategists in this whole like series. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So anyway, Carl talks to Maggie, and Carl's like, "I'm coming with you guys," and Maggie's like, "Well, why you don't want to stay here with your father?" And he's like, "Not really. I'm not too sure. I don't really want that. I want to be on my own," which I like to see Carl develop more of as a character. So that happened, and getting more into it. So, everyone talks. Michonne and Rick talk about the situation, and Michonne says, "I want to go too." So let's get to the more interesting part. So later that day, around the nighttime, Dwight has like a conversation with Rick, and it gets really heated. So pretty much, Dwight feels that Rick is like not fit anymore to be leader of Alexandria, and like he wants Rick to step down so he can become leader. And Rick is like, "What the hell is this coming from?" And it's because all the things, like the things that happened with the Saviors, Negan becoming leader of the Saviors again, all this crazy stuff that's happened. So he's kind of like heated about, like, he's very heated. And he's like, you killed Sherry and stuff," which I don't blame Rick for doing. Sherry kind of just jumped on Rick and tried to kill him. And like, I think it would have went even worse if they killed Rick like this. Like, if they killed Rick, it would have been a bigger fight, and Dwight would have died. But anyway, Dwight is angry and frustrated, and Rick kind of like says, "Well, why would you want to be leader? Why would you want to take me, overthrow me and try to become leader?" And like Dwight's like, "Because I feel that you don't do your job." And like Rick brings up like one point I was thinking, and Rick brought up too, was like you didn't want to become leader of the Saviors. You were like very uncomfortable about becoming leader of the Saviors. You thought that was like very, very, messed up. And Rick was like, well, yeah, what are you talking about? And Dwight's reasons is because their saviors were too like rageful and crazy, which they are. Like as you can see, like even with or without Negan, they're still an annoying threat, and they can't be they have to be like watched. Like you can't always like let them leave. Like that's the problem. They let them leave to their devices because they just surrender after Negan was defeated. But now it's more of a dangerous situation with them. Now you have to look over your shoulder because you can't trust them. Like he said in like chapter, I believe 120, 130, whatever, and he said like the saviors are kind of like the weird, angry like uncle or cousin or brother or family member who came out of jail, and like it's hard to talk to them because they've been locked up for like years. So it's like these are more dangerous people, and you don't want to like upset them. Anyway, it gets so heated to the point Dwight's like, "Don't make me like." Pretty much, Dwight is hinting that like he might try to overthrow Rick, and he's telling Rick to step down. And Rick, blows up on Dwight like you don't have the balls to, and all that stuff. And they're arguing, and like Rick is like, "Well, come back to me when you like." I have to sit there. My wife just died. Like two communities are in shambles because of this big war, and like we have to talk to a brand new group that we barely know, who's all the way in like several states away. We're in Virginia, they're in Ohio. Like, do you want to take over that plate? And Dwight's sitting there arguing back and forth, and Rick kind of like punks Dwight, which I like because even though Rick at this point right now he's not physically. He's not physically the badass that we know. He's very wounded from all the situations throughout the whole Walking Dead series. So it's taking a toll on his body. He walks with a cane now. And in the comic book, he lost his hand, so he has he's in no way to fight someone like Dwight. But, he still punks Dwight like, dude, I have anger too. I have rage just like the Saviors. And trust me, I don't need a reason to let it out. Because trust me, if you step to me again, you'll be another fucking grave. And I was like, oh, okay, Rick. But that pretty much calms it down for a second. But let's talk about that scene because I want to talk about it a lot. Does anyone else notice ever since after the all-out war time skip, they design Dwight to look more like younger Rick? I'll show a picture on the screen for you guys to understand. Like young Rick with current Dwight, they look pretty similar. Like it's the same hairstyle. One difference is if Dwight had a normal his face wasn't burnt on the side, he will look like a young Rick. So seeing him argue with Rick, who kind of looks like Douglas, who was the leader of Alexandria now, who was the leader of Alexandria back when Rick's people came in. For those who only watch the TV show, that Douglas is Deanna, but you see that Rick looks nothing like Rick anymore. He's much more older and much more mature and different, but he's still old Rick. But Dwight is he reminds me so much of the rageful, angry, active Rick. And I think that Rick not being physically opposing no more is what made him take a back step. But then again, people do try him, so he takes a step forward. And, Rick is physically not capable of handling himself anymore in the fight. We're not getting that Rick that can, who jumped into a zombie herd and just wiped zombies left and right, left and right, left and right. So it's very interesting. So Dwight kind of, backs down after, Rick threatens, I will put a bullet in you, dude. I ain't scared of you. And it kind of goes from there. So, there's another scene with Dwight when he's interacting with Negan. So Negan is, chatting, cracking jokes, talking about how he likes eating pork and beans and that he will eat it to the point he'll doo-doo it out and just dude, he'll poop it out and just dude. But you gotta love Negan. Negan's character is so fun and enjoyable, and that's probably why he's still in the comic book, because he's such a fun, dynamic character and there's so much you can do with him. But Dwight and him are talking, and he's trying to talk with Dwight and chatting him up, and he's telling Dwight he plans on going back to where Lucille died, which was his wife. And if you I think that was nicely set up because parallel to where all this stuff was happening, they were releasing these chapters called "Here's Negan," and these Here Negan chapters, talk about the situations with Negan. So Dwight is all like, "Whatever, I don't care. Like, f off. I don't want to talk to you." And he's like, all right, I just wanted to conversate. So we might not see Negan for a good while, and I think that's good because we got enough Negan in this arc. And I think if we take a backseat and say, say goodbye to Negan for now, it will end. So pretty much it's the morning. Negan leaves. It's like peace out. The Hilltop people, they're leaving to go rebuild their society, and some of the Kingdom people are with them. And then as they're leaving, Carl goes to tell Rick like, "Yeah, Dad, I'm leaving." Rick is like supportive of Carl. He's like, "You know what? I understand. You want to stretch your wings. You want to get out there. Do you, boo boo? I'll support it 100%." So, they hug and they park their waves. Everyone's going back to build their communities back up. You got the small ragtag team group who's going to go across the country to go meet these people in Ohio at a certain destination. And, try to talk up something, try to talk up a trade deal. And we're going to pretty much follow that group mainly throughout. So, the distance between Ohio and Virginia is a long, long time. And they're mainly going to be on foot. I doubt they're going to be in car. And I doubt they're going to be on horses because you got to have like food and stuff for the horses and water for the horses to drink. But anyway, it's just a long, 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 long trip where like barely any like stops to get anything. So, so the chapter ends with like everyone's like parting their ways and like Maggie tells Dwight like, take care of Rick, and Dwight's kind of like stubbed, like, we're not talking right now. He doesn't say that, but he just kind of stubbed, like, yeah, let's not go there. We're kind of like had a gun to each other's head, but getting like into what Maggie said. Maggie's like telling like one of her men, Dante, one of her head soldiers, Dante, to like go follow Negan to see where he settled down at. Because she doesn't want to lose track of him. Because, yeah, Rick let him go. But obviously Maggie, who's the leader of a community, who literally became the leader of the community and started this for, like, just because, like, yo, my husband died, this man killed him, and Gregory wasn't, like, standing up to Negan. And she had the power, she had the charisma to do it, so she did it. So, it would make sense why she would be the main person to be like, I want Negan's head on a stick because he killed Glenn. Now, that's pretty much the whole chapter, and it sets up a lot, like, especially with the issues with... I want to talk more about the issues with Dwight and Rick, because I've been hearing rumors, and people have been theorizing on YouTube, other YouTubers who cover Walking Dead, and they said the next big arc people kind of believe it should go down with is a civil war. I think that would be very interesting, because it could be interesting that Dwight musters up the courage to gather some people who don't necessarily agree with Rick and think Dwight might do a better job, and it's kind of interesting because every other community will be busy at this time, so no one will come aid Rick in this situation. I'm not saying it has to be another big fight, but it could be a similar way how they overthrew Negan. I'm not saying I get other communities involved, but it could be like a smaller scale revolution, and it will be interesting seeing Rick handle a old comrade, betraying him. So it's just like that is where The Walking Dead I think should go ahead. And now you have so many different stories. You have Maggie tracking down Negan. You have rebuilding the communities. You have Carl's own character development. You have the whole situation from Rick and Dwight, and you have the group going out to going out to Ohio. So you have literally 5 stories you can take The Walking Dead in those 5 different directions, and it can work really well. So, what's my thoughts on this chapter? I know this video's been going on for like 20 minutes. I've been talking for 20 minutes, but I give this chapter around like a 4 out of 5. It was really well put together. I had a lot of tension build up, but it wasn't like it had a hopeful ending, but it still had some we'll go over your shoulder situations. But I will love to see where the series is going at this point, especially with the Ohio situation, because that's a long go, and you can run into multiple groups smaller groups, bigger groups, dangerous groups, good groups, groups that are not capable of handling themselves, people who are not capable of handling themselves, and it's just you have that free range. Anyway, I'm done rambling about this chapter. Why I liked it so much, I give it like a 4 out of 5 because it was really good and the art was really good, and the story it really pieced everything together really nicely and a nice knitting bowl like knitting like a nice little basket for you, and you can just choose what kind of storyline you want to kind of follow. So that's it for today. I'm Megasonic. If you want to check out more videos, feel free to go down to the channel and click on some videos and stuff, and enjoy if you want to. And if you like what I do right now and you like this, please like and comment what you liked about the chapter, or what's your favorite Walking Dead character. I would love to hear those too. Like, who's your favorite Walking Dead character? Who's your favorite TV show or versus the comic book? Explain reasons why. Just I want some conversation to be in the chat. Or what's your thought on the chapter? Do you think Dwight would go through it, or do you think Dwight might stand down, or do you think someone might convince Dwight? And I feel like Dwight has every reason to do it. Anyway, hit that notification bell when you hit subscribe so you can get update on the next Walking Dead review, which will happen this time around in August. So keep that in mind. I see you guys later. Megasonic out.